So Bruni's out there stealing firewood again. Anyways, things are not working out nearly as well as I hoped. The solar panels aren't putting as much voltage out as they should be. I know I have the angle up, maybe off slightly. I don't know if the solar panels are just, I don't know, but I could not get the battery to charge with just the solar panels for some reason. So I had to hook up the generator, like the BMS had shut off. I had gotten a fault code. I hope the camera picks this up. Anyways, I had gotten a fault code. And so the BMS was off. So obviously I wasn't charging. So anyways, it's kind of frustrating. I don't know why the solar panels are, I mean, they were a good price, but maybe just buying new ones, at least you know what you're getting when you buy something used. Like, what can I say, right? It's not, like I said, the angle's not right. I'm not too sure what's happening. Okay, so there we go. There's the culprit there. Well, other than this, you see the red flashing light in the the fold is 3, which says there's no juice coming in there. So the solar panels are doing just fine. They're bringing in 110 volts. I've connected to an outside receptacle there. I have to remove. People have to realize it's not actually that it's an input receptacle, not an output, and it's kind of dangerous. But until those solar panels are on the roof, that's going to be like that. So all that seemed to be happening is I tried it again today. The solar panels are working fine. Dennis, the guy who sold me the solar panels, has been helpful. I don't get very good cell service up here, which doesn't help. So he told me to try and reset. I had put the battery on the generator and got it up to 51 volts. He told me to do a reset. I tried doing a reset. I know I had heard somewhere that possibly it takes a while for the inverter to find the solar panels, but I did the reset and I turned the battery off and then on, and a green charging light came on for a few seconds and then went off. So what it does is it just drains the power into the battery from the battery, and then I get that fault number 3 showing up, which means it doesn't do anything at all. It's off. So it's trying to get help from these guys. And they just sent me something in the mail, or like in my mail account, saying, oh, how they're really good at helping out. And then when you send them a question, you can't phone them and they won't phone you. You send them a question and they say, oh, they need 48 to 72 hours to answer you. And here they are sending me this mail telling me about promoting themselves as being helpful and everything. Well, they're not helpful. Sent them an email and saying I'm going to have to give it back. I'll either talk to Dennis, or when I get the price for putting the solar panels on the roof, I'll talk to that guy, see how much he'll charge. I know it's probably going to be a lot more, but then at least I know it's going to work. So I got the outside lights hooked up and they're working. Dining room light. That's for a fan. And if I was an electrician, this would all be so simple. But yeah, I can't. I got the bathroom working too. Can't show that right now because I've got I have a little small 20 amp hour 12-volt battery that I use on an inverter to give us light, so we get bathroom lights and everything, and I'm charging that now. So all in all, again, disappointing because of the inverter. Had to use the fridge in the trailer. Yeah, my overflow pipe there worked really well. It would it goes in place of the black pipe because the tank got filled when it was raining. But it uh, if I had to put the lid on, like, so what I'm going to do eventually is put a a plastic pipe in there or some kind of pipe with a filter on it, and then seal it at the top, and then put the red lid on. There was a little bit of leakage around where the water comes in, but for the most part it filled it up, and then the excess went out the end. Now I don't want to just leave it connected like that, because if it hasn't rained for 3 or 4 days, all the stuff on the roof gets washed down and goes in the tank. So, well, I mean, there is a gutter guard, like a leaf guard on here, a pretty good one. I'll probably put another filter in, like a stainless steel filter going in, and then a filter on the water inlet going into the pump. But so right now, if it rains for 10 minutes, I come out, I hook that up, and if I have it hooked up the way I eventually want to have it hooked up, with it sealed up, then I can go to bed at night, or I can just leave it. It'll fill up, and then when it stops raining again, I can disconnect it. So as you can see there is a line going to the battery finally. It's charging the battery. 4 o'clock, I'm into the trees there. So I moved 2 panels down there. Remember, this wiring is pretty shaky, it's pretty temporary. So that should get me something coming in after, from 4 o'clock on till about 7. I think I kind of looked outside. It's only getting 1.2 amps right now. Don't know. I can check on my app here how well, on my phone, how well it's working. And then I got to clean up all this wiring and maybe try and waterproof some of it. I think I'm going to end up getting some more cabling and then tie it directly into the box where it is now. I just got to find out asking for a price to put it on the roof. If it goes on the roof, I'll be happy, but I'm not in any big hurry. I just have to worry about the safety of this, because which is that there is, if I take that plug out, it's live, just like the male end of that's live at 160 volts going through now. Yeah, so it's still charging. I'm going to keep track of it. The current doesn't seem that high. I have the app's working on my phone now. I guess I had to have that rant on my phone about how crappy my phone is and that it's proprietary, and of course now it's we better start working. So the app's working fine on the phone. I have I think I said I have the 2 panels faced out there, because yesterday when I hooked it up by 4 o'clock, I was done and I was already in shade. Fault code came up on the inverter after about an hour, even though it showed enough voltage. I had 5 panels hooked up then, getting 150 volts. Now I'm getting over 160. I'll wait till it hits full sun on all the panels, see how much voltage I'm getting in. But the voltage from the panels is okay. the amperage needs to come up. It'll come up to around 9 amps at the highest. Hopefully I get it that high. And then we'll see how quickly it charges the battery. I don't know if I can draw current from it now. Yeah, I don't know if I can turn the fridge on or not. Let's just see how the battery how the battery starts. If it gets to like 5, I won't be happy. It's got to get to around 5.4 for it to be up there, and then it has to hit the absorption stage. So running that last night a few times, and this morning in the bathroom and in the kitchen making breakfast. I didn't actually make breakfast, but just the lights. That was down at 3.1 volts this morning. You gotta remember that the inverter does take a little bit. So, I think the lights being LED lights, they really don't draw very much power. So now I have to get used to when I walk into a room, flick, there, the lights are on. That's going to be hard to do. Anyways, here's a sight worth seeing. Come on, buddy. You got to look out. That thing never worked before. It says my battery's full. Don't know if that's entirely true. It's probably in the absorption state. Batteries kind of go into especially lithium batteries. They'll go up and they'll take a lot of power right away. That's why it has to be set for lithium. Now, I also found out that I think I explained this before. The reason that my system wasn't working was the MPP, I think it's MPPT, multi-point tracking. Needed 120 volts minimum for it to work. So hooking up all 6 solar panels got me up to about 160 volts. So it started charging. The good news for me now is it says that's full. I can hear it cycling into charging, like the fan comes on. I raised the voltages higher than I originally had them. They're at 56 maximum and 48 minimum. I'll probably adjust that a little bit, just it's easier on the batteries. Being easier on the batteries means I don't want them to expand too much, because my bus bars in between the batteries are bent, so I guess that they can move a little bit. But if you can imagine, if you're taking these batteries up to maximum and minimum, and those bus bars are solid bus bars, then it's obviously going to start yanking on the where the cathode and I think it's cathode and diode go in, where, like, in other words, where the power comes out and your batteries are going to start leaking, and it's just going to be a mess. So that's why we tend to keep them a little bit lower, the parameters lower, as I explained in another video. It's about 2 in the afternoon here. It's been kind of cloudy and very windy, so the solar panels have stayed. They're not blowing. The wind isn't blowing them, even the other stuff is blowing around. I'm kind of securing all the loose cables, and just kind of tightening everything up, or making everything kind of make sure it's waterproof. I also have to make sure no one unplugs it, because remember, it's opposite. The male end is now powered, so that has 160 volts going through it, which is quite a bit. So yeah, I'm gonna tie the solar panels down with some string to what I have them on still. But other than that, the fridge has been running along with it. I was afraid to turn the fridge on because I thought, I'll charge the batteries first, but that doesn't seem to be an issue. And since I have two of my solar panels facing towards the west, it should get through the trees and I should be able to get power, you know, maybe till 6 o'clock, maybe even till 7 as opposed to 4 o'clock like yesterday. So I'm working on the other battery now. Not that I necessarily need it, but I have a sore foot and it's a kind of a nice easy job to do other than, you know, tightening everything and tying everything down outside. If my foot feels better tomorrow, I gotta lift up a sheet of plywood on the floor and get down into the basement and run my kitchen split receptacle over to where the plugs go in. My fridge, that'll be one separate circuit. That'll drill through the floor and run both of them up at the same time. And then I will have a circuit for the basement, which is easy. Just run a wire down there to a box or something. And then the other big thing is going to be sorting this mess out. You can see I got a lot of wires there. Fortunately, I can put a box there. So that'll give me it's a 3-wire, so it'll give me one separate receptacle. It'll give me one receptacle that's completely on its own, where if we put a stereo, we won't get interference. Then the other one, so that'll be the red wire. The black wire will power 2 pot lights here. One upstairs receptacle, one downstairs receptacle, the laundry room, and outside the door, which Daniel buried in the wall. Now, I looked at some pictures from back then, and I roughly know where it is, and I have to find it, really, before I can have that circuit, because, you know, the wires probably aren't touching each other, but there's a chance that it's close enough. There's 2 wires coming out. There's a possibility they may touch. So to finish that circuit, I got to dig those wires out of there and put the outside light on. So that, I might not get that done this time. All right, that's it for now. So I cleaned the wires up. Back there, got everything underneath. Couldn't really tie it down, but as you can see, it's overcast now. I thought it was going to be sunny all day, and my I have this thing, hang on, showing me full battery. Wishful thinking. It's okay, come on. It's 52.6, which is the way this thing started at. It's not charging right now. It's just because there's too little light. I checked the cells and they were all fairly close, up to about 2.97. It had charged a little bit higher, but remember, we're getting into that thing where it'll charge really high. If you watch the other videos, it'll charge really high, and then it drops off. It's absorption. So I'm going to say the battery's only probably less than halfway charged up. My apps, it's a stupid phone, I think. It's not recognizing the Bluetooth on the battery. It was yesterday. So this morning, yeah, and it was this morning. It was this morning because it was showing me that there was amps going into it, and that it charged itself up to 1.9% or 3.8. It ended up being. So I have no idea what it's charged up to now, because my phone will not. It's the phone's fault. I don't know. It's not finding the Bluetooth. So when I look at all my Bluetooth connections, the Dali BMS that I have is not on there. So it's not recognizing it. I have absolutely no idea where it is right now. I'm probably getting some solar input, um, which will probably help run the fridge. And then I'm working on getting the other battery together just in case this one fails on me. And then the big question is going to be when I leave, do I leave it plugged in and leave the house sitting here with 160 volts coming in wired outside to charge this battery fully, and then trust it to shut it off before it gets hot or anything. So that's something I have to think about. I'm leaving day after tomorrow. Tomorrow's supposed to be overcast also, so the day I'm leaving, in the morning it'll be sunny. I don't know. I think I got to get this other battery done and connected, and then yeah, my foot's still kind of sore, so it's better I work on the battery now, and then if I can get it together, or together enough anyways, that I can rely on it as another power source, then the next big thing with the electrical is pulling sheets of plywood up off the floor and getting into the basement, drilling holes and running those two wires over.
So I woke up. Actually, I didn't really fall asleep. It's been really raining hard up here. Um, I guess I kind of worry about it because Barbara and I were up here a few years ago. And, anyways, I was just showing you the table that I made for up here. Um, it was a piece of spalted maple that my son Nikki brought home. From, was cut down in front of a friend's house, and he asked them for a piece of it, and he had given up on it, and I had given up on it, and then I saw some videos on epoxying, so I took it down on my shop and I worked on it for about a month, and I made the table out of it. And the lamp comes from the Chateau Montebello in Quebec, one of those early railroad stops, and they had these, wooden carved lamps with like the shade is made out of leather, and they were renovating. Um, so my wife asked about them, and they said since they were renovating, they might be selling some of them. Yeah, my hair looks pretty stupid too, doesn't it? Anyways, the reason that the rain is keeping me up is because a few years ago, Barbara and I were up here, and there was a rainfall, a 1 in 100 year rainfall. Um, we had set up the futon had been set up downstairs, but that was about it. There was no bathroom in here, so we were really staying in the trailer. But we came in here just to be in here, you know. The roof was on and it wasn't leaking anymore in here. So we came in here and we fell asleep, and then we woke up. Um, I don't know what time it was, like 10 o'clock at night or something. Um, the rain had let up by then, and we were okay. Well, let's go back to the trailer and go back to bed and go to sleep there. Anyways, we went out, and we had the dogs with us, and that little stream that's dried up normally this time of year, and then they only hear running in the spring and in the fall, like late in the fall, was a torrential rapid. It was like white water shooting 4 feet up in the air. And I got terrified when the dogs went down and got close to it because I thought they were going to get washed down into the lake. And we we got flashlights and we walked up the laneway and realized that the culvert that goes on under the laneway wasn't nearly enough, and it had started washing out the laneway. So we may not have been able to leave here safely. Um, we went to the trailer and we started getting worried because what if the trailer, like, so what happened is there's like two rock faces on each side, and when they built the roadway in here, they brought in fill, and they put the fill in between the two rock faces to make a roadway, so it's kind of soft. um, our trailer's sitting on that. And we decided we better stay in the cabin because the cabin's bolted to the rock. Canadian Shield. Um, Sometimes wonder if it's bolted good enough, but no, um, it's bolted to rock, so nothing's going to happen to the rock. But we could not sleep in the trailer because we were afraid we were going to get washed in to the river. Um, there was the river. It's a very big river lake. Anyways, it the water level rose about 2 feet, which is an enormous amount of water had entered for it to do that. It was all brown the next day, um, but I don't know if you can hear it raining. But when it's raining, I get a little nervous. So I was just laying here trying to sleep, and I thought, duh. um, I guess I'm glad I'm here and not in the trailer. Um, Anyways, I have a light, and this light is not connected to my 20 amp little battery. It's connected to the other battery, the big battery and the big inverter. I think tomorrow I'm going to talk a little bit about absorption in the battery and why things have happened the way they've happened up here. But I think I just wanted to kind of tell that little story about what happened to us up here. Um, it was really scary. It was, wow. I mean, that little stream turned into a big, huge rapid. Um, and the next day, we had to spend $2,000 to have our laneway fixed up. So it's not like it didn't have consequences. So yeah, I do worry when it rains up here, when it rains hard. Like, it's let up a little bit now, but hopefully tomorrow. Okay, my tanks are full. The water tanks are full. I don't need this freaking rain. The sun can come out tomorrow. I don't need any more rain. All right, good night.
It was supposed to be rainy today, but it's not. Luckily for me, um, solar panels don't have anything yet. I guess I could go and squeegee them off. You just not want to leave a toy. Go to the bathroom. Anyways, so 51.1. That's what it is this morning.
So that thingy there was showing full yesterday, but there's not a chance that it was full because this was reading 52.6 or 52.4. It got as high as 53. So woke up this morning and as I showed the thing that had said the battery was full yesterday now is down to 1 bar, which is it's just the fridge running. So I kind of was thinking yesterday of like, wow, this is great that this battery is almost charged. It got up to 53 point something volts according to my voltmeter, which still isn't 54. But I guess during the night, I kind of realized that it's the same thing that I was going through when I was charging these batteries up. If you watched any of those episodes back then, where I would charge the batteries up, especially if they were charged up quickly, and come back the next morning and where'd all the charge go? Why is it so low now? This doesn't make any sense. They can't. It's just taking all this charge. And then what I realized and what I talked about after is the cycles of charging a battery goes through. And one is kind of where it charges a lot, like bulk, or it easily accepts a lot. So I think it's around the power goes in around the anode and the cathode, which is why a lot of these rectangular batteries, like the ones I have, these cells, tend to swell. If you have a lot of amps, I think if you have a lot of amps coming in, amps, amps, if you have a lot of amperage coming in to the battery and it powers up very quickly, it goes into those I don't want to call them cells, but into those particles around the anode and the cathode. So that part of the cell tends to expand, which is, I think, why when you buy those pre-made battery packs, they use those really small batteries in them. They just use a ton of them, right? They don't use most of them don't use the bigger batteries that, as guys that build batteries use. So there isn't that small batteries, they all charge, they all discharge. With these batteries, there's there's a time where they take a lot of power in because it's the easy power, but then you leave it overnight and all that power has now trickled through the battery, through the material inside and gone to the vast corners of the battery and charged that part. So in other words, what's happened is that charge has moved to other parts of the battery. That means that at the anode and cathode, where you're taking your reading, that voltage has dropped, the charge has dropped. It's kind of like when I tested the one battery and the one battery in the box last time I was up here, and it had discharged was higher than the other ones. So generally, that most of the power goes into the first battery, so where the charging is happening. So that battery will charge faster, so it'll read higher. However, when it's fully charged, that means everything is absorbed into all the other batteries. And that's the stage I think it was at yesterday. I had gone from bulk to absorption, and then it became overcast, and it's overcast out there today. So there's no real absorption. So overnight it drops off. The fridge is running and the lights are running. The light I'm using now. It has more power in it than when I used the generator and took it up to the same voltage because again, it was up to 52 volts, but that was just 52 volts measured where it goes in. And once that spread out, by the time the morning came around, it was virtually nothing. So at least this time when it went up to 53 volts,
Now that it's everything settled down the next morning, probably 51.2 volts is probably a more um, normal reading, or that's what it should be reading. That's the absorbed rate of the battery, which is another reason why in my off-grid garage, when he had kind of recommended the each cell go to 3.4 volts when you're charging. He realized that after a day of doing that, there was a voltage drop all the time. And so he recommended 3.45. Well, I went up to 3.5. I hadn't really realized that. So that video I did about going up to, I went to 3.41. Um, so you're better off to go higher so that it'll go up to there. Because when the sun goes away and everything quietens down, um, by the time everything is absorbed into the battery, into the far reaches of the battery, you're going to have a drop. So the drop will probably be like from 3.5 will probably be down to, for each cell, go down to, maybe 3.45, something like that. Um, and that still isn't stressing out the battery. It can go up to 3.65. But like I said, I really don't want to test the where I have my bus bars connected on the battery that they move. So today, even though my foot's feeling a little bit better, and this morning I thought the sun was going to shine, I was going to go and work in the pull up the sheet of plywood so I could work in the basement and run the kitchen split and the fridge wire over to the where the panel box is going to be. I think I'm just going to keep working on the battery. Working on the battery, um, charging the vacuum cleaner. I got to vacuum out the screw holes to lift that sheet of plywood up. And I thought, um, just to have the extra power source. Ran into a bit of a problem. So of the pieces I brought here, that doesn't fit. I mean, I could drill it out, and I have this one. I thought I had enough of these. I have some at home. And that's too big for my liking. That's just too loose. So I may stop working on the battery there. So I used a different circuit breaker. Where have I got it? Down here, this little hammer thing that I hammer these ends on with. Use heat shrink. I don't know. Anyways, that's it. It's much smaller than the other one, and it fits on with a DIN rail. So that'll fit on there. I just have to get it in the box. I got woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning because the alarm was going off on the inverter. So I had to take everything out of the fridge and put it in the cooler. It had gone down to 49.2 volts or something like that. It's supposed to go down to 48. I don't know. It had the beeping woke me up, and it kept beeping, and there was a red light. So I just ended up shutting it down. It was a fault number 1, which doesn't even say low battery. I'll check that out in a minute. But either the fridge is taking a lot of power. It seems to be running a lot. There's almost nothing in there. But maybe that's the problem. There's almost nothing in there. I don't know. Check it out. Today's going to be a sunny day, although I'll be leaving. I don't want to leave the solar and the inverter plugged in when I'm not here, just in case the batteries kind of overcharge or something like that. Don't want to fire or anything. So there you go, 53.3 volts. It's charging up like crazy today. Sun's hitting the solar panels really nicely. And the fridge is not connected. But unfortunately, I gotta go. Yeah, so we got to shut everything down. But remember what I said about the 53.3 volts. That's going to absorb. It will have to get up. It would have to be at 55 volts for quite a while for it to fully absorb into the battery for it to be fully charged. So I'm hoping that when I come up next, it'll still say 52. That'll be positive. I don't have. I'm not going to leave here with everything turned on. I don't know what's going to happen with these batteries when they reach maximum, and just to be on the safe side, I'm just going to shut everything down. All right, until next time.